The Great Hall of Kepler Prime Station buzzed with the nervous energy of a dozen different alien species. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered for what many considered the most important Galactic Council meeting in decades. The massive chamber stretched upward like a cathedral, its walls lined with the flags and symbols of member worlds. At the center, a circular table accommodated beings of all shapes and sizes, from the towering crystalline Zephyrians to the small, quick-moving Corvan traders. Elder Zephyrian Kess stood at nearly 3 meters tall, his translucent blue form catching the light from the chamber's central star map. His ancient voice carried the weight of centuries as he called the session to order. Fellow council members, we face a crisis that threatens the very foundation of galactic commerce and peace. The holographic display above the table showed a web of trade routes, many now marked in angry red. Ambassador Thyra of the Altarian Empire leaned forward, her silver skin reflecting the display's glow. The pirate raids have increased by 300% in the last 6 months. Entire shipping lanes have been abandoned. Our merchants refuse to travel without military escort, and even then, we lose ships every week. General Voss of the Draxan Confederacy slammed his massive fist on the table, causing several smaller delegates to jump. His reptilian features twisted into a snarl. We should crush these pirates with overwhelming force. My fleet stands ready to cleanse the outer rim of this scum. Trade Minister Zilk of the Corvan Commerce Guild chittered nervously, his insect-like features twitching. Violence only breeds more violence, General. We need economic solutions, perhaps increased tariffs on worlds that harbor pirates. Economic solutions? Voss laughed, a sound like grinding stone. These pirates understand only strength. They mock our weakness with every successful raid. The debate continued for hours, going in circles as it had for months. Each species proposed solutions that served their own interests. The Altarians wanted increased patrol funding. The Draxans sought military expansion rights. The Corvans pushed for trade restrictions that would benefit their own merchant houses. Elder Kess watched the arguing with growing frustration. He had lived through 500 years of galactic politics, seen empires rise and fall, witnessed the birth and death of civilizations. Yet this problem seemed to resist every conventional solution they proposed. Perhaps, he said quietly, his crystalline voice cutting through the noise, we need to think beyond conventional solutions. The chamber fell silent. When Elder Kess spoke, others listened. His species was among the oldest in the galaxy, their memories stretching back to the dawn of interstellar civilization. Tell us, Elder, Ambassador Thyra said respectfully. What wisdom do the archives offer? Kess moved to the star map, his tall form casting strange shadows. In the oldest records, there are stories. Legends, some might say, of a time when the galaxy knew true peace, when pirates and raiders feared to show themselves in civilized space. General Voss snorted. Stories will not stop plasma cannons, Elder. But Kess continued, ignoring the interruption. The legends speak of a warrior race, beings called humans. They ruled vast territories with military might that made even the strongest empires bow in respect. Their ships were said to move like ghosts through space, striking without warning and leaving no survivors to tell the tale. Minister Zilk's antenna twitched with amusement. Humans. I have heard these children's tales. Mythical warriors who could appear anywhere, fight anyone, win every battle. Pure fantasy, created to make bedtime stories more exciting. The archaeological evidence suggests otherwise, Kess replied calmly. We have found ruins on dozens of worlds, ship designs that match no known technology, weapons platforms that our best engineers cannot understand, all bearing the same symbol, a blue and green world with a single moon. Captain Nara of the Helix Federation, her tentacles curled thoughtfully, spoke up. Even if these humans existed, Elder, that was thousands of years ago. The records show they simply vanished, gone without explanation. If they were so powerful, where did they go? Kess turned back to face the council. That is the greatest mystery of all. One day their ships patrolled every trade route. Their colonies thrived on 1,000 worlds. The next, nothing. Empty stations, abandoned cities, silent worlds. As if an entire civilization simply decided to leave. Convenient timing for a fairy tale, General Voss grumbled, disappearing just before anyone could verify their existence. Trade Minister Zilk clicked his mandibles in agreement. The Elder speaks of myths and legends while real pirates steal real cargo from real ships. We need practical solutions, not ancient ghost stories. Ambassador Thyra studied the star map thoughtfully. What happened to their territory after they left? Chaos, Kess replied simply. Without their protection, the regions they once guarded became lawless. Pirates, raiders, and worse filled the void. It took centuries for other species to restore even basic order to those sectors. And now we face the same chaos spreading outward, Captain Nara observed. Perhaps there is a lesson in these stories, even if they are only legends. General Voss stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Lessons? The only lesson here is that strength rules the galaxy. These mythical humans, if they ever existed, are gone, dead, extinct. We must solve our problems with the forces we have, not dream of saviors from children's stories. The argument resumed with fresh intensity. Some delegates found inspiration in the tales of human protection, while others dismissed them as primitive superstition. Through it all, Elder Kess remained silent, his ancient eyes reflecting memories older than any written record. As the session dragged toward its inevitable inconclusive end, Trade Minister Zilk proposed forming another committee to study the pirate problem. General Voss suggested a show of force that would likely start 3 different wars. Ambassador Thyra recommended increased diplomatic efforts that everyone knew would fail. Finally, Elder Kess called for adjournment. We will reconvene next month. Perhaps by then, someone will have found a real solution to our troubles. As the delegates filed out, grumbling about wasted time and political deadlock, Captain Nara approached the elder. Do you truly believe these human legends, Kess? The ancient being gazed up at the star map, his crystalline form refracting the light into rainbow patterns. I believe in patterns, Captain. The galaxy has rhythms, cycles of chaos and order. We are entering a time of chaos again. Perhaps it is time for the legends to return. And if they do not, Kess turned toward the exit, his footsteps ringing on the metal floor. Then we will face the darkness alone, as we always have. As the great hall emptied and the lights dimmed, the star map continued its slow rotation. Red markers showed the spreading pirate threat, growing like an infection across the peaceful trade routes. In the archives below, ancient records waited in digital silence, holding secrets that few believed and fewer understood. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, beyond the reach of scanners and sensors, something stirred. The galaxy's call for help had been heard, though none yet knew it. The legends were more than stories, more than myths whispered in the dark. The legends were coming home, and when they arrived, the galaxy would remember why pirates once feared to show their faces in civilized space. The time of chaos was ending, though few could imagine the storm that would herald the dawn of a new age of peace. The Council had asked for solutions. They would receive one beyond their wildest dreams. Captain Vex Torrigan stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Reaper, watching his crew celebrate their latest victory. The pirate captain was a massive figure, his scarred face telling the story of 100 battles. His crew was a mixture of outcasts and criminals from across the galaxy, united only by their greed and their loyalty to the man who had made them rich. 3 Centauri freight convoys in 1 week, laughed his first mate, a thin Corvin named Skitch. His insect eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he counted credits on his personal display. Their escorts ran like frightened children the moment they saw our colors. Torrigan smiled, showing teeth filed to sharp points. The Centauri have grown soft. Their security forces are more interested in polite patrol routes than real fighting. Makes our job easier. The Crimson Reaper was the largest ship in Torrigan's fleet of 12 vessels. Each one was a captured military ship, modified with extra weapons and armor stolen from a dozen different sources. His armada had grown powerful enough to challenge small planetary defense forces, and the pirate captain had plans to expand even further. Captain, called Nexus, the ship's sensor operator. His cybernetic implants glowed as he processed incoming data. Long-range scanners are picking up something strange. Torrigan walked over to the sensor station, his heavy boots clanging on the metal deck. Define strange, Nexus. Unknown ships approaching our position. They don't match any configuration in our database. The cyborg's mechanical voice carried a note of confusion. The energy signatures are unlike anything I've seen before. How many ships? 12, same as our fleet. Nexus paused, his implants flickering. Captain, their formation is perfect. No deviation, no drift. It's like they're controlled by a single mind. Torrigan studied the tactical display. 12 ships moving in perfect synchronization toward his position. Most pirates or merchants traveled in loose groups with ships spread out for safety. This formation was military precise, but unlike any military he knew. "Hail them," he ordered. Skitch worked the communication controls, his thin fingers dancing over the interface. "Broadcasting on all standard frequencies, Captain." No response. "Try the emergency channels." "Still nothing, sir. They're maintaining complete comm silence." Torrigan felt a strange chill run down his spine. In 30 years of piracy, he had learned to trust his instincts. Something about these ships felt wrong, dangerous in a way he couldn't explain. "Show me visual," he commanded. The main screen flickered to life, displaying the approaching fleet. Torrigan's crew gathered around, their celebration forgotten. The ships were like nothing they had ever seen. Sleek and angular, they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their hulls were dark gray, almost black, with strange geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Those aren't pirates," whispered Jekka, the ship's gunner. Her reptilian features showed clear fear. "Look at the weapon placements. This is military hardware, but not from any species I recognize." "Maybe they're from beyond the rim," suggested Skitch. "Explorers from unknown space." Torrigan shook his head. "Explorers don't travel in battle formation with weapons hot. These ships are ready for war." The unknown fleet continued its approach, maintaining perfect spacing and speed. There was something hypnotic about their movement, like a deadly dance performed in the void of space. No communication, no demands, no threats, just silent, inexorable approach. "Captain," Nexus reported, his voice tight with concern, "their weapons are charging. Power levels are off the charts. I've never seen readings like this. All ships, battle stations." Torrigan barked into his comm system. Unknown fleet approaching with hostile intent. "Prepare for combat." Across his armada, pirates scrambled to their positions. Weapons powered up, shields activated, and fighter craft launched from the larger vessels. Torrigan's fleet had fought military forces before and won. They were confident in their stolen firepower and brutal tactics. But as the unknown ships drew closer, that confidence began to waver. The enemy vessels showed no signs of concern about the pirate preparations. They didn't even adjust their formation or speed. They just kept coming, like death itself given form and purpose. "Identification scan complete," Nexus announced. "Captain, this is impossible. The computer can't classify these ships at all. The materials, the design, the technology, none of it matches any known civilization." Torrigan's scarred face twisted into a snarl. "I don't care what they are. If they want a fight, we'll give them one. All ships prepare to fire on my command." His fleet spread into attack formation, a tactic that had served them well against merchant escorts and patrol ships. The pirates had superior numbers in some battles, but they always had superior ruthlessness. They fought without mercy, without honor, caring only for victory and profit. The unknown ships finally responded to the pirate movements. But instead of spreading out or taking defensive positions, they did something that made Torrigan's blood run cold. They accelerated directly toward the pirate fleet, still in perfect formation, as if the pirates' weapons meant nothing to them. "Sir," Jekka called from the weapons station, "they're not even trying to dodge. It's like they want us to shoot them." "Range. Optimal firing distance in 30 seconds, Captain." Torrigan gripped the command rail, his knuckles white. Something was very wrong here. In his experience, only two types of enemies charged straight into battle without concern for tactics or safety: the completely insane, or those so powerful they had nothing to fear. 20 seconds to optimal range, Jekka reported. The unknown ships continued their approach. Up close, Torrigan could see details that made his stomach clench. The hulls weren't just dark, they seemed to drink in light, creating patches of absolute blackness against the starfield. Strange symbols marked each vessel, geometric patterns that suggested intelligence far beyond anything the pirates had encountered. 10 seconds, Captain. Orders. Torrigan stared at the approaching fleet. Every instinct he had developed over 3 decades of successful piracy screamed at him to run. But his pride, his reputation, and his greed held him in place. He was Vex Torrigan. He had never retreated from a fight. "Fire all weapons," he roared. The pirate fleet erupted in a storm of plasma bolts, missile trails, and energy beams. The space between the two fleets lit up like a festival display, as hundreds of weapons discharged simultaneously. It was enough firepower to level a city, concentrated on 12 targets that seemed determined to absorb every shot. For a moment, the unknown ships disappeared behind a wall of explosions and energy discharge. Torrigan's crew cheered, thinking they had won another easy victory. Then the light faded, and the enemy fleet emerged completely unharmed. Impossible, breathed Nexus, his cybernetic implants flickering wildly. Direct hits on all targets. Their shields absorbed everything. Power levels are still reading maximum. The unknown ships had closed to point-blank range during the attack. Now Torrigan could see them clearly, their dark hulls unmarked by the pirate barrage. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, like weapons crafted by gods who had never learned mercy. "Return fire," Torrigan whispered. His earlier confidence shattered, but before his weapons could charge for a second volley, the unknown ships finally responded. What happened next would haunt the nightmares of any pirate who survived to tell the tale. The dark ships opened fire with weapons that defied understanding. No flash, no visible beam, no missile trail. One moment Torrigan's fleet was intact, the next 3 of his ships simply stopped working. Their lights went out. Their engines died. Their weapons fell silent. Dead in space, but somehow still whole. What did they do? Skitch screamed. How did they do that? Torrigan had no answer. He had seen ships destroyed, seen them blown apart or burned by energy weapons, but he had never seen ships simply switch off like broken toys. The unknown fleet had finally sent a message, though not in words. They had demonstrated power beyond anything the pirates could comprehend or resist. And now, in the growing darkness of disabled ships and dying hope, Captain Vex Torrigan finally understood what his instincts had been trying to tell him. He had met something that legends were made of, and legends, he was about to learn, were far more dangerous than any reality he had ever known. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, her gray uniform crisp and professional, despite the long months of their journey. Around her, the command crew worked with quiet efficiency, their movements precise and purposeful. The ship hummed with the power of technology that had taken humanity centuries to perfect during their long exile from galactic civilization. "Admiral," reported Commander James Park from the tactical station, "long-range sensors have detected combat signatures ahead. Multiple ships engaged in what appears to be a pirate attack on civilian vessels." Chen moved to the central command platform, her dark eyes studying the holographic display that materialized before her. The tactical readout showed a clear picture: 12 pirate ships surrounding a small convoy of freight vessels. Even as they watched, the pirates opened fire on ships that were clearly trying to surrender. Distance to engagement: 47 minutes at current speed, Admiral. Chen considered her options. The human fleet had been traveling through this region for 3 weeks, observing and recording everything they encountered. Their mission was reconnaissance, not intervention. Earth's government had been very clear about avoiding contact until they better understood the current state of galactic civilization, but watching innocent beings die when she had the power to save them went against everything Sarah Chen believed in. "Commander Park, what do we know about those civilian ships?" The tactical officer's fingers danced over his controls, pulling up detailed scans. "Colony transport vessels, Admiral. Families evacuating from the Kepler mining station due to increasing pirate activity. Approximately 3,000 civilians aboard, including children." Chen's jaw tightened. Children. The decision was made. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Change course to intercept. We're going to stop a massacre." "Admiral," came the voice of Captain Lisa Rodriguez from the UES Defiant. "Our orders are to avoid contact with local powers until the reconnaissance phase is complete." "Our orders," Chen replied firmly, "are to assess whether this galaxy is safe for human return. I'd say watching pirates slaughter families gives us a pretty clear answer about the current state of affairs." The human fleet adjusted course with smooth precision. 12 ships that had been traveling in a loose exploration formation shifted into battle configuration. The change was subtle but complete. From scientists to warriors in seconds, the ships themselves were marvels of human engineering, developed during the centuries of exile. Sleek and angular, their hulls were composed of metamaterials that could absorb and redirect energy attacks. Their weapon systems were based on principles that Earth scientists had discovered only after leaving the galaxy behind. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the sensor station, "the pirate fleet has noticed our approach. They're moving to intercept." Chen studied the tactical display. The pirate ships were a mix of stolen military vessels and modified civilian craft. Dangerous against merchant ships, but woefully outmatched against what was coming toward them. Signal the convoy to move away from the combat zone, she ordered. And prepare a message for the pirates. What kind of message, Admiral? Chen's smile was cold as space itself. The kind that gives them one chance to surrender before we demonstrate why humans were once the peacekeepers of this galaxy. The pirate fleet had formed into an attack formation, clearly intending to deal with the unknown ships before returning to their prey. On the bridge of the Prometheus, the crew watched as the enemy weapons powered up and locked onto their positions. Incoming communication from the lead pirate vessel, reported the communications officer. They're demanding that we identify ourselves and state our business. Put them through. The main screen flickered to life, showing a scarred alien face twisted with arrogance and greed. Captain Vex Torrigan stared at Chen with the confidence of a predator who had never met anything he couldn't kill or intimidate. Unknown ships, this is Captain Torrigan of the Crimson Reaper. You have entered claimed territory. Surrender your vessels and cargo and you might live to tell about it. Chen stepped forward, her hands clasped behind her back. Captain Torrigan, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Fleet. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and surrender. This is your only warning. Torrigan's laugh was like breaking glass. Human, never heard of you, but I've heard lots of species beg for mercy right before I space them. 20 seconds, Captain. You've got 12 ships, same as me. But I've been raiding this sector for 20 years. My crews know how to fight and my weapons are battle-tested. Torrigan's scarred face twisted into a snarl. Your mistake was trying to intimidate Vex Torrigan. Chen's expression didn't change. 10 seconds. You want to play hero? Fine. Let me show you what happens to heroes in my space. The transmission cut off and immediately the pirate fleet opened fire. Plasma bolts and missile trails lit up the darkness as 12 ships unleashed everything they had at the human fleet. The bridge crew of the Prometheus watched calmly as the incoming fire reached their position. The ship's shields activated automatically, creating a barrier of energy that absorbed the plasma bolts without even flickering. Missiles struck the barrier and simply vanished. Their explosive force converted into harmless light. Shields at 100%, reported Lieutenant Kim. No damage to any vessel in the fleet. Chen nodded. Return fire. Disable their engines and weapons, but keep the ships intact. We'll want to question the survivors. What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy. The human ships opened fire with weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Instead of destructive energy beams or explosive missiles, they used focused electromagnetic pulses that shut down electronic systems without harming the organic crews. One by one, the pirate ships went dark. Their engines died, their weapons fell silent, their life support systems switched to emergency power. In less than 3 minutes, an entire fleet that had terrorized this region for years was reduced to helpless hulks drifting in space. Admiral, Commander Park reported. All enemy vessels disabled. No casualties on either side. Chen studied the tactical display with satisfaction. Send boarding parties to secure the pirate ships, medical teams to treat any injured, and security teams to process the prisoners. As human Marines began the task of securing 12 pirate vessels, Chen turned her attention to the convoy they had saved. The civilian ships were broadcasting messages of gratitude and amazement in a dozen different languages. Communications? Open a channel to the convoy. The main screen showed an elderly Altarian whose silver skin was marked with tears of relief. Unknown saviors, I am Captain Vega of the transport ship Safe Harbor. You have saved 3,000 lives today. We are in your debt. Captain Vega, this is Admiral Chen. Are any of your people injured? Some minor wounds from the initial attack, but nothing serious. May I ask?
Who are you?
Your ships, your weapons. We have never seen such technology. Chen considered her words carefully. This was humanity's first real contact with galactic civilization in over 3,000 years. How she handled this moment would shape everything that followed. We are humans, Captain Vega. We have been away from this galaxy for a long time. We're here to see how things have changed in our absence. The Altarian's eyes widened. Humans, but that's... You're legends. Stories told to children about ancient protectors who vanished before my great-grandmother was born. Not legends, Captain. Just... absent. But we're back now. The pirates, Vega said suddenly. They've been terrorizing this entire region for months. The Galactic Council seems powerless to stop them. Entire trade routes have been abandoned. Chen's expression hardened. Not anymore. We'll make sure this convoy reaches its destination safely, and we'll make sure Captain Torrigan and his crews answer for their crimes." As the human fleet began escorting the grateful convoy towards safety, Admiral Chen stood quietly on her bridge, watching the stars. Humanity had left this galaxy as refugees, fleeing a plague that nearly destroyed their civilization. They were returning as something far more powerful. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready for what humanity had become. Behind them, the disabled pirate ships drifted in space, their crews trying to comprehend what had happened to them. They had faced weapons they couldn't understand, wielded by beings they thought were myths. Soon the entire galaxy would learn that some legends were real, and some legends had learned new ways to fight. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened just 18 hours after the first reports reached Kepler Prime. Representatives, who had been traveling to their homeworlds for the quarterly recess, turned their ships around, racing back to the neutral station with news that seemed impossible to believe. Elder Zephyrian Kess stood before the assembled delegates, his crystalline form catching the light from the central display. The holographic footage played for the third time, showing 12 unknown ships easily defeating Captain Torrigan's pirate fleet without firing a single destructive shot. The transmission came from Captain Vega of the transport ship Safe Harbor, Kess announced, his ancient voice carrying clearly through the chamber. His ship and 2 others were being attacked by Torrigan's fleet when these unknown vessels intervened. Trade Minister Zilk of the Corvan Commerce Guild leaned forward, his insect eyes studying the footage intently. "The weapon signatures don't match anything in our databases. And look at those ship designs. They're completely unlike any known configuration." General Voss of the Draxan Confederacy slammed his massive fist on the table. "Irrelevant. What matters is that unknown forces are operating in galactic space without authorization. This could be an invasion fleet conducting reconnaissance." Ambassador Thyra of the Altarian Empire shook her head, her silver skin reflecting the holographic display. "Did you not hear Captain Vega's report, General? These ships saved civilian lives. They could have destroyed the pirates but chose to disable them instead." "That suggests mercy, not conquest." "Mercy can be a tactic," Voss growled. "Win hearts and minds before revealing your true intentions." Elder Kess raised his hand for silence. "There is more to this story." Captain Vega reported that the leader of the unknown fleet identified herself as Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Fleet. The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates laughed, others shouted in disbelief. Captain Nara of the Helix Federation rose from her seat, her tentacles writhing with agitation. "Humans. Elder, surely you don't believe this fantasy? We discussed this just days ago. Humans are legends, myths created by primitive civilizations to explain ancient ruins." Kess moved to the display controls, his long fingers working with practiced precision. New images appeared above the table, archaeological photographs from dig sites across the galaxy, ship fragments, weapon components, and structural remains that had puzzled scientists for generations. These artifacts were found on sites throughout what we now call the Outer Rim. The metal alloys are unknown to our science. The design principles are beyond our understanding, and every piece bears the same symbol. The display zoomed in on a recurring mark found on every human artifact, a stylized representation of a blue and green world orbited by a single moon. Captain Vega described this exact symbol on the hull of the ship that saved his convoy. Trade Minister Zilk's mandibles clicked nervously. Coincidence. Someone found old ruins and decided to copy the markings to make their ships seem more mysterious. "The technology is not a coincidence," Elder Kess replied calmly. "Our best scientists have studied human artifacts for centuries, without understanding how they function. Yet these ships demonstrated capabilities that match the theoretical projections of human technology." Ambassador Thera studied the data carefully. "If these truly are humans, where have they been for 3,000 years? Entire civilizations don't just disappear and then return without explanation." General Voss stood abruptly, his reptilian features twisted with suspicion. "Perhaps they never left. Perhaps they've been watching us, studying our weaknesses, waiting for the right moment to strike." "To strike at what?" Captain Nara demanded. "They saved civilians from pirates. If they wanted to attack us, they could have started with defenseless colony ships instead of protecting them." The debate raged for hours, but it was interrupted by an urgent communication from the border monitoring stations. Commander Thale of the Frontier Watch appeared on the main screen. his face pale with excitement and fear. "Council members, we have multiple reports coming in from across the Outer Rim. Unknown ships matching the description from Captain Vega's encounter are appearing throughout the region. They're attacking pirate bases, destroying raider fleets, and liberating captured vessels." Elder Kess leaned forward. "How many ships, Commander?" "At least 50 confirmed sightings, sir. Possibly more. They're moving through space like they know exactly where every pirate stronghold is located. Some bases that we didn't even know existed are being hit with surgical precision." General Voss's eyes narrowed. 50 ships conducting coordinated military operations across multiple sectors. "This is not a rescue mission. It's a campaign. A campaign against pirates," Ambassador Thyra pointed out. "They're doing what we've been unable to do for years." Commander Thale continued his report. "The most interesting development is the survivors' testimonies. Every pirate who's been captured or rescued describes the same thing: ships that seem to absorb energy weapons, technology that can disable vessels without destroying them, and crews that fight with tactical precision unlike anything they've encountered." Trade Minister Zilk pulled up economic data on his personal display. The regions where these interventions occurred show immediate improvements in shipping activity. Merchants who were afraid to travel those routes are already planning new expeditions. "Because the pirates are gone," Captain Nara observed. "In 18 hours, these unknown ships have accomplished more anti-piracy work than our combined fleets have managed in years." Elder Kess returned to the star map, highlighting the affected regions. "The pattern of attacks suggests intimate knowledge of galactic geography and current political situations. These aren't explorers stumbling onto pirate bases. They know exactly where to look and what to target. Which supports my theory that they've been watching us," General Voss said grimly. "The question is what they want." "Perhaps," came a new voice from the chamber's entrance. "You should ask them directly." All heads turned as Fleet Admiral Marcus Kane entered the chamber, his human form immediately recognizable from the archaeological records. He wore a crisp blue uniform marked with the same symbol found on ancient ruins, and his presence filled the room with an authority that made even General Voss take notice. "I am Admiral Kane of the Human Space Force," he announced calmly. "I've come to formally notify the Galactic Council of Humanity's return to this galaxy, and to discuss the terms of our reintegration into galactic civilization." The chamber fell completely silent. For several long moments, no one moved or spoke. Then Elder Kess stepped forward, his crystalline form reflecting the chamber's lights. "Admiral Kane, I am Elder Zephyrian Kess, current chairman of the Galactic Council. On behalf of all member species, I welcome you back to galactic civilization." Kane nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Elder Kess. I understand our return has raised questions and concerns. I'm here to address them." General Voss found his voice first. "Where have humans been for 3,000 years? Why return now? And why with military force?" "We left this galaxy during a plague that nearly destroyed our species," Kane replied. "We spent centuries rebuilding our civilization in distant space, developing new technologies and new philosophies about our place in the universe. We returned now because long-range monitoring showed that chaos was spreading through regions we once protected." "Monitoring?" Ambassador Thyra asked. "You've been watching us?" "We've been watching over you," Kane corrected. "The difference is important. We observed but did not interfere, hoping that galactic civilization would develop the strength to maintain order without our direct involvement." Trade Minister Zilk's antenna twitched. "And when you decided we had failed?" "We decided to come home," Kane said simply. "This galaxy is our birthplace. These trade routes were built on foundations we laid. These worlds were settled under our protection. When that protection vanished, chaos followed. We're here to restore the balance." Captain Nara leaned forward. "With what authority?" "The Galactic Council represents the legitimate governments of this galaxy." Kane's smile was polite but firm. "With the authority of 3,000 years of technological advancement, Captain. With the authority of fleets that can end piracy in days rather than decades. With the authority of beings who remember when this galaxy knew true peace." The chamber erupted again, but this time the voices carried a different tone, fear mixed with hope, suspicion balanced with desperate need. The galaxy faced challenges that seemed impossible to solve through conventional means. Elder Kess raised his hand for silence. "Admiral Kane, what exactly do humans want from this return?" "Peace," Kane replied. "Order. A galaxy where merchants can travel safely. where colonies can grow without fear, where children can look at the stars and dream of exploration rather than invasion. And if we refuse to accept human authority? Kane's expression didn't change. Then you'll continue to struggle with problems you lack the power to solve, while we do what needs to be done regardless of your official recognition. The truth hung in the air like a challenge. The humans were offering to solve the galaxy's greatest problems, but they weren't asking for permission. They were simply announcing their intentions. The age of legends was over. The age of reality had begun. 3 weeks after Admiral Kane's dramatic entrance into the Galactic Council chambers, Admiral Sarah Chen walked through the corridors of Kepler Prime Station. Her escort of human marines drew stares from the various alien species they passed, but Chen maintained her professional composure. Today would determine whether humanity's return to galactic civilization would be peaceful or whether it would require more direct methods of persuasion. The Great Chamber had been reconfigured for this historic session. Instead of the usual circular arrangement, the seating now formed a traditional diplomatic configuration, with humanity's delegation facing the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. Security was tight, with both human marines and station guards maintaining careful watch over the proceedings. Elder Zephyrian Kess called the session to order, his crystalline voice carrying the weight of history. We gather today to formally address humanity's return to galactic space and to establish the framework for future relations between human forces and the existing galactic order. Admiral Chen took her place at the speaker's podium, her gray uniform crisp and her bearing commanding. Around her, the delegates studied her with mixtures of curiosity, fear, and calculation. In just 3 weeks, human ships had eliminated more pirate activity than the combined galactic fleets had managed in 3 years. Honored delegates, Chen began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. I come before you not as a conqueror, but as a representative of humanity seeking to resume our historic role in galactic affairs. We seek cooperation, not domination. General Voss of the Draxan Confederacy stood immediately, his massive form intimidating even in the diplomatic setting. Admiral Chen, your ships have been conducting military operations throughout galactic space without authorization from any legitimate government. This constitutes an act of war against sovereign territories. Chen's expression remained calm. General Voss, with respect, we have been eliminating pirates and raiders who prey on innocent civilians. If you consider protecting trade routes and civilian shipping to be acts of war, then we have very different definitions of legitimate government. Trade Minister Zilk of the Corvan Commerce Guild consulted his datapad nervously. The economic impact of human operations has been significant. Shipping activity in formerly dangerous sectors has increased by 400%. Insurance rates for merchant vessels have dropped to their lowest levels in decades, which should be celebrated, Ambassador Thyra of the Altarian Empire interjected. Admiral Chen, my government would like to formally thank humanity for the liberation of our colonies in the Vega system. The pirates who had occupied those worlds for months were eliminated in hours. Chen nodded respectfully. Ambassador Thyra, protecting peaceful civilizations has always been a human responsibility. We're simply resuming duties that were interrupted by our forced exile. Captain Nara of the Helix Federation leaned forward, her tentacles curled thoughtfully. Admiral, your capabilities are clearly far beyond anything we currently possess. What assurance do we have that humanity won't use this technological superiority to impose your will on the rest of us? A fair question, Captain Nara, Chen replied. The answer lies in our history. Humans ruled vast territories for millennia, without enslaving other species or imposing our culture on alien worlds. We protected trade, maintained peace, and allowed each civilization to develop according to its own nature. General Voss laughed harshly. Ancient history, Admiral. Power corrupts all species eventually. What makes humans different? Chen's eyes hardened slightly. Perhaps a demonstration would be more convincing than words, General. She activated a portable holographic projector, filling the space above the chamber with a detailed star map. The display showed the entire galaxy, with different regions marked in various colors. This represents our current intelligence assessment of galactic civilization, Chen explained. Red areas indicate regions under pirate or criminal control. Yellow shows politically unstable zones. Green represents areas with effective governance and security. The map was sobering. Nearly a third of the galaxy showed red or yellow markers, indicating vast regions where legitimate government had broken down or never established itself. In the 3 weeks since our return, Chen continued, human forces have been active in these areas. New markers appeared on the map, showing the results of human intervention. 47 pirate bases destroyed, 18 raider fleets eliminated, 63 illegally occupied worlds liberated, over 12,000 civilians rescued from captivity. The chamber buzzed with nervous conversation. The scale of human operations was far beyond what anyone had imagined. General Voss's eyes narrowed. You're claiming to have conducted military operations across half the galaxy in just 3 weeks? I'm not claiming it, General. I'm documenting it. Chen manipulated the display, showing detailed tactical reports from dozens of engagements. Our ships are faster than anything in your current fleets. Our weapons are more precise. Our intelligence gathering is more comprehensive. We can accomplish in days what takes your forces years. Trade Minister Zilk's mandibles clicked with nervous energy. The resources required for such operations must be enormous. What do humans expect in return for these services? Chen smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Recognition of our sovereignty over traditional human space, reopening of diplomatic relations, and cooperation in maintaining galactic peace. We're not asking for tribute or submission, Minister. We're asking for partnership. Elder Kess consulted his ancient records. Admiral, the territories you claim as traditional human space include some of the most valuable systems in the galaxy. Mining worlds, agricultural centers, strategic choke points for major trade routes. Systems that were abandoned and fell into chaos when we left, Chen pointed out. Systems we're currently in the process of securing and rebuilding. We're not taking anything that wasn't already ours. General Voss stood again, his reptilian features twisted with anger. This is exactly what I warned about. Humans return with superior technology and immediately claim vast territories as their birthright. How long before you decide the entire galaxy belongs to you? Chen's expression grew cold. General, I think you misunderstand our capabilities and our intentions. Perhaps another demonstration is in order. She activated her personal communicator, Admiral Chen to Fleet Command. Display current fleet positions. The holographic map shifted, showing the locations of human ships throughout the galaxy. The delegates gasped as hundreds of markers appeared, indicating human vessels in systems across known space. These are not invasion fleets, General, Chen said quietly. These are patrol ships, rescue vessels, and peacekeeping forces. Every one of them is engaged in protecting civilian populations or eliminating criminal threats. Captain Nara stared at the display in shock. How many ships do you have? Enough, Chen replied simply. The question isn't our capabilities, Captain. The question is what kind of galaxy you want to live in. She manipulated the display again, showing projected outcomes based on different policy decisions. Option 1, continued resistance to human involvement. Result, piracy continues to spread, trade routes become increasingly dangerous, colonial worlds remain vulnerable to raiders. Estimated time to complete galactic chaos, 15 years. The projection was grim, showing red zones spreading across the map like an infection. Option 2, cooperation with human peacekeeping efforts. Result, secure trade routes, protected colonies, elimination of organized piracy. Estimated time to achieve galactic stability, 5 years. This projection showed green zones expanding outward from human-controlled space, gradually covering the entire galaxy. General Voss stepped closer to the display, his military mind processing the tactical implications. You're saying we can either accept human dominance or watch civilization collapse. I'm saying you can either accept human partnership or continue, failing to solve problems that are beyond your current capabilities, Chen corrected. We're not demanding submission, General. We're offering solutions. Elder Kess studied the projections carefully. Admiral, what guarantees do we have that human forces will respect the sovereignty of member worlds? The same guarantee we gave for 3 millennia before our exile, Chen replied. Our word backed by our actions. We protected this galaxy once before without enslaving it. We're prepared to do so again. Ambassador Thyra stood gracefully. On behalf of the Altarian Empire, I move to formally recognize human sovereignty over their ancestral territories and to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Human Space Force. Trade Minister Zilk's antenna twitched rapidly as he calculated political and economic implications. The Corvin Commerce Guild seconds this motion. The improvement in shipping security alone justifies human involvement. General Voss remains standing, his massive form rigid with barely controlled anger. The Draxan Confederacy objects to this capitulation. We will not bow to threats of superior firepower. Chen's expression softened slightly. General, this isn't about firepower. It's about responsibility. We have the ability to protect innocent lives and maintain galactic peace. Choosing not to use that ability would make us complicit in every atrocity we could have prevented.